We have a very nice panel. We also have a surprise guest, Andreas. Thanks for joining. We were about to...
You have to keep it in English. Basically.
No. We did it in English before because I don't know about tonight, but we had some students that recommend, that are not Romanian, that recommend that we should keep it in English. So it's going to be in English, not on your behalf. Thank you, Monica, for coming here. Monica...
I did it for Sergiu, don't worry. And then
all right.
Join Alex. So two of them are my anchors.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Alex, for being here. Also, I think Sergiu is the means towards the descent, perhaps. Thank you, Sergiu, for being here. And thanks, Andreas. Andreas is joining us from Prague. So I would kindly, how do you want to do it, Sergiu? Do you want to introduce the guests? Do you want the guests to introduce themselves? We make a switch.
No, I think I want, as you would suspect, what you want. So I think it's this has become a series, and more than having a nice panel and with very smart people and concentrated around. I think it's also something like the beginning of the weekend. So it's part casual, part serious, and it's concentrated on our day-to-day work and what we've learned out of it and what we are learning out of it. And it's like those yearly conferences, except that this time they are weekly because the history is moving so fast and we see so many new things every day, and we see that the reality is changing a lot. So yeah, I think we are, frankly, Radu and I, honored to have Monica, Alex, and Andreas participating. But best would be if they, just take the mic and in 2 minutes tell us all what they are doing and yeah, how these few weeks have been for you.
Yeah, Monica, please, of course.
Hey, I am very disciplined in online, unlike the offline.
I don't believe this. I don't believe it 1 second. But
I am disciplined online or what? No, I am very committed. Good.
Okay.
So I am very interested in this thematic of entrepreneurship. I can call it, without any exaggeration, one of the big passions of my life. I have been reading, preparing about this, analyzing, talking about this since, I don't know, since I am 18, since 2000 years ago. So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur, and everything around me is somehow related to this. So I'm very interested about this subject and happy to be able to share both my experiences and also, let's say, a lifelong learning about this. In this moment, I am having also the hat of being the co-founder and co-CEO of Vivre. This company is digitally native, fully digital, except our warehouse, because we do also fulfillment inside we do it ourselves. So these times, let's say, are not a big surprise to come on me and not exactly tragical. On top, before going to the what have I been doing the last 3 weeks and how I see them, I have to mention also about my personal life, because there's two very interesting things. First, I'm married with an Irish, and for whatever, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And this is important because Irish are a very expansive and courageous nation. I don't know if any of you interacted with many of them, but they are a culture that is interested in kind of going abroad and doing things, very open to new things. And I can feel this in my family also because of my husband. The second interesting thing is that I have 4 young kids. Between 12 and 2, 3 girls and 1 boy. With my husband, we raise them ourselves, and then this makes me a very busy mom. So on top of being an entrepreneur and passionate about this, I am quite a feminine view on many things, because I am in command of these kind of things. So I am in the target. I am very much the customers that I am targeting, a mom, a female, urban location, and this is how I am looking at my career also with this kind of view. As a third thing, the last 2 years I'm a part of a wine company as a member of the board. It's Purcar. They have also operations so in Romania. They are from Republica Moldova, Romania, Poland, Slovakia, so CE, and they are listed since 2 years. Very interesting and successful company, also run by an entrepreneur and having also an investment fund in there. So also having a hat of being a board member, an official board member. That's kind of it. On very short, the last 3 weeks have been one of actually the most effective from my life, because I have never been so much involved in my family's life, in my children's life, so available for them, because they just have to walk in the middle of my conversation in order to access me. And really, like, I didn't miss any meeting. I joined a lot of my forums, virtual dinners. So I could do a lot of things that usually I wasn't doing because I wanted to be in the evening home. Now I can be at home with my kids and also join very interesting conferences, webinars. I am working from Tulcea. Tulcea is in the southeast of Romania, somewhere at the end of the road, kind of southeast of Romania and very east part of EU. So we came here 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm working from here. And this is like a safe house for me, if you know the the movies with the mafia. And sometimes I'm joking that I'm hiding here from my creditors. I'm actually not hiding. I'm working a lot and being very open to many things. Thank you, Sergiu, for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. Alex.
So what do you want me to cover? Just the impact right now on what we're doing as a company? What would you like me to start with?
Start with something. Start with who you are.
Why you are here?
Why you are here? We will get anywhere from that.
Get somewhere. Okay. I can do that. Not a problem. So
sure.
Well, first of all, I think we were at least until now, we are the fortunate ones, because this crisis had a very, very limited impact on the company, on the numbers, on the colleagues, on everything. And the effects we see so far are maybe an increase in productivity. And that's because we were already working from home. A lot of our colleagues were working from home. We have a policy of flexi time. You can leave the office and return, and as long as you do your job, everybody's gonna be supportive. Flexi city, even you can work from a different location where we have an office. So it was quite easy, basically, to have people working from home. We sent an email and we said, starting tomorrow, we're gonna be doing that, and everybody started working from home. No, we didn't change anything, no procedure, nothing, because everything was already in place. So it was easy. Teams reported way more efficient meetings. Everybody said they are getting less interruptions and they get more work done. And I also realized, like, I'm working more. So maybe this is not a good bargain at the end of the day, but I realized actually it's even worse than going at the office, working from the bedroom where I am at this point. So
perfect work-life balance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people talked about that balance before. Right now, come on, there's nowhere to be. It's nowhere in sight. We started to implement like new concepts. For instance, last Friday we had an online beer party. We sent packs of beers and garlic chips to everybody in the company, and we started the party at 6:30 in the afternoon, and we wrapped up at about 2 a.m. I can tell you it was very, very interesting, but I cannot give you more details.
Did you record it? Did you record?
No, it was not recorded, no, and I'm glad we did not record.
Did you have breakaway rooms?
Sorry?
Did you have breakaway rooms? You know, you could have No. So everybody was on one,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
many screens.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
It worked quite nicely. It worked quite nicely. Actually, our record was with like 2 weeks, 1 week before, when we had an all hands session, 120 people, all online, 15 speakers, no prep, no script, nobody overlapped, nobody forgot the mic open. It was just amazing that 120 people can have an efficient all hands meeting with no prep. It was incredible. And we are doing this right now every week. Before this work from home for everybody, we used to have an all session, all hands meeting once a month. Now we're doing such a meeting every Friday. Basically, I actually deserted our all hands meeting to join you guys. And we are right now doing something that we kind of wanted to do for a long time, and we were making some progress, but now I think we are doing it. We are being way more transparent to our colleagues, how the business is working, if that project it's about to drop, if we're signing something, somebody new, if we have a security incident, and now we are discussing about them openly every week. We were kind of trying to do this before, but something was, I don't know, lacking.
Yeah. And this without
and the feedback we get from the team, it's incredible. They are like, I feel so much secure that you are telling me that that project is going well or it's affected by this number. And people need this reassurance over and over again.
What I wanted to comment is that without the coffee machine in the kitchen and without the smoking place, gossip is not what it used to be.
Yes, probably, but I can also tell you that it still happens. So, for instance, we have created an always available chat room. It's called Cafeteria. So if you are getting bored, if you're alone, whatever, you just get into that chat room and maybe it's going to be somebody and you're going to be talking about something. Just we are playing with all sorts of experiments and seeing what will stick and what will not.
That's actually a very good idea. We should do the same, Sergiu.
Yeah. What are you using for it? Because I thought it was just a channel on Slack, but I figure it's a video.
Yes, but there is live beyond Slack, and we are using Hangouts for this, and it works. Okay. And now that Zoom has received its latest patch, we can also use Zoom, but mostly we use Hangouts.
Great. Andreas.
Yeah, jumping in. Thanks, guys. Well, I'm primarily here because Sergio and Radu invited me to be and promised that this is going to be in English. So happy to be here. I suppose part of the audience may know me because they may have met me in class. I'm teaching entrepreneurship over at MSM in Romania, professor of entrepreneurship at the University of New York in Prague, but primarily I've been starting, investing and failing companies for about 22 years now. I'll keep it short. So I'm participating in 4 companies in Romania and a few others in other parts of the world. Last 3 weeks have been tough. It's a serious crisis. I'll be happy to be talking about opportunities and also a lot of threats that inevitably are going to come out of it, regardless of how funny we sound now talking about Slack and other stuff. That's my 4th crisis, actually. I had 93, 95 back in London with the real estate, the dot-com crash that hit me straight in the head back in 2000. 2009 and 10 was pretty tough with the financial crisis. That's the 4th one. A lot of people say it's going to be the worst. It might be the worst, but exactly because it's very, very transforming in the way that the other 2 have already been describing. It's going to have a lot of opportunities. Now, I'm in several sectors. And over on the last 3 weeks, that's been pretty tough because, as you may see, I'm in a kid's room. So my son may interrupt me at any point and I'll not be able to do much about it. But I have been really annoyed reading all over about people getting very bored at home and reading about Netflix, watching Netflix movies and getting bored about what to do because, I've been firefighting with all the companies. Some of them are doing better because of the nature of their business. Most of them are having, challenges and struggles to deal with because inevitably, as much as we try to window dress it, consumer spending has collapsed and everything that is B2B has frozen, literally. So it's not that it's going to be for most companies, unless you're in a very specific sector, it's going to be tough for a little while. So we have been firefighting for 3 weeks on the
Andreas, if you don't mind,
yeah,
can you
go ahead.
tell our audience what are your businesses in, just to or maybe their names if you because I think it's much easier to put things in context if everybody knows this is real estate, this is financial services, this is
Well, it depends on which way you want to see it. Okay, starting in Romania or overall?
And where your mind space is spent right now in fighting the fires and exploiting the opportunities, because I think we are all in the entrepreneurial world. We are torn between the two things,
Okay, Romania, the big one is Viva. You probably know about it. Fintech, online loans, very interesting company, very rewarding, very transformative, very dependent on legislation right now in Romania. Evertoys, toys online, probably most of you know about it. There's also an investment fund on real estate, which kind of alternative. We're going to some specific properties that we're after. And at the same time, not, very, very interesting MSM itself. As you know, beyond that, we have a company in retail tech over in Buenos Aires that I'm very, very technical, very happy with. One that supports exports over in the Philippines. One that relates with audio tech in Czech Republic now, but it's pretty diverse. Instead of if I want to stay in Romania, Viva obviously is the bigger one. Everto is very, very, very interesting, but it's B2B, it's B2C, it's fintech, it's in various sectors, and a few others that we're looking at now. We had one in telemedicine that Radu knows about, which we exited, and we don't know if we did the right thing to do given what's going on now in telemedicine. Although they, when we contacted the guys to see how they're doing, they said, yeah, it's very active, but at the same time, there are 1,000 competitors that jumped up at the same time. So as it's inevitably going to happen. And a few other interesting ones that we're looking at, although inevitably, as you may suspect, if you're investing in startups right now, everything has pretty much frozen for a little while because you don't have data. You don't have short-term outlook. It's difficult to have data points to do valuations. There's uncertainty. On the other hand, that there's a lot of opportunities that are going to come up because this is a very transformative crisis, beyond the fact that it's primarily a human tragedy because this is what it is. Beyond that, it's going to transform the way people consume, the way people interact. So inevitably it's going to have a lot of opportunities. So from one side, you're a little bit frozen. You don't have data points. On the other hand, you don't want to miss out. There's a lot of good companies that are going to come out in the coming 6 months. So I don't know if I covered your question, Sergiu, sort of jumped in.
I think you did. Thanks for saying all that, Andreas. And well, you opened up with with your investments question that I have, and you're all familiarized with this. By the way, Monica is now, I think, very famous for being an investor on a very popular TV show. And I was wondering if perhaps investment will stop, at least for a little while. Couldn't that create an advantage for those entrepreneurial companies that succeeded in securing an investment already, and now there's going to be a gap? Like they have perhaps 1 year of lack of competition or lack of finance competition. Could it be the case? I don't know. Monica, can you please? Yeah.
On top of the Dragon's Den format, we also were a bit lucky, let's say, with Viva, because we've done a bonds issuing that were actually listed today through a private placement, so 3.5 million for 5 years. Surely we were lucky, and surely it's nice to have have, let's say, a bit of more of a runway. And what you're saying, it's in a way obvious. A lot of the deals that were kind of on the table or even signed but not really finished, I'm hearing around that are kind of at risk. But as Andreas was saying, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I think what will change is not necessarily that there will not be transactions or things like that, or that cash is king. I think the valuation multiples will change, or the expectations of the sellers, and this comes mainly because some of the players will freeze, meaning the very institutional ones, the big ones, most probably will kind of take a step back, and then with less competition amongst the investors, most probably the ones that really want to do the deal or need to do a deal will kind of be a bit more more flexible to look at different structures and all that. So actually, I think for pure investors that are really staying on cash and wanting to invest, this is a great time. Not now with the pandemic, of course. When I'm saying this is a great time, I mean, let's say the next 4 or 6 quarters.
Basically, to put even more bluntly, everything is frozen right now. Nobody's closing on deals. Unless there's a legal obligation to do so or something is signed up, everything is completely frozen because they're trying to see how they're going to reevaluate the situation. So you're not going to be escaping that. On the other hand, you mentioned the word cash is king. Among a lot of investors, there is a lot of fear about it because in reality, cash is not a very desirable asset class right now. It gives you a short-term respite and safety, but given the amount of money that's being printed left and right, we're not sitting very comfortably on cash. I mean, our inflation will stock up. So inevitably.
Cash is king, but we live in republics.
Cash is king for now, but I don't know how much of a king is going to be in 2 or 3 years with the inflation is going to come around.
Yeah.
And also there's another thing, a lot of the investors are investing in many instruments, and as the markets took a hit, I feel that actually some people would love to invest, but they should take a really big haircut, let's say, if they're getting out of something, because there's not so many things sitting literally just on cash in the bank. Like a lot of people were doing like a package, a basket. So that's why an opportunity has to give better multiples, because if you're getting out of, I don't know, treasury bonds or whatever, if you're selling stock at a 30% discount, you have to make 30% on top of whatever you're hoping to make in a more kind of risky investment. So I think also the sellers should look at things like that. But of course, I don't know, this is maybe very theoretical.
Actually, there's an abundance of liquidity. Liquidity has not, I mean, there's a lot of money sitting on banks right now, even more so because a lot of people exited even at a loss, the stock market. So there's a lot of liquidity. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty about which way things are going to play out. And there's, you can't really do valuations because, you have 6 to 12 months of very uncertain sales. You might not have any traction at all. You don't know which direction the market is going to go. You don't know when this pandemic is going to end. So I would argue that there is a lot of, most of the funds, just stopped. It's just the money is in the bank. And they, in the back of their mind, they are scared of inflation and they're scared of, missing out on opportunities, but they don't know which way to go. I mean, same thing applies. I mean, if you ask me, I would do the same, or I'm doing the same. It's, everything is frozen for a couple of months until you get a sense of which way things are going to be going.
We heard Monica saying about her bonds.
If I may.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Sergiu. I think go ahead, Sergiu.
No, I wanted to add something in this. I wanted to add something in this context of that Andreas mentioned. There is a lot of dry powder also in the funds. So if you're talking about, cash available for small investments, that lies with people and with companies and so on, that's one category. But let's not forget that the formation of new funds has been accelerating for years prior to this. And they were at a time when they were heavily investing. And now they are stuck. And this is a huge cost actually for a fund. At the same time, they can't proceed to invest until they know what are the rules of the game. And the rules of the game, not only they have changed, but they have changed in a way that nobody anticipates. So what funds are doing now, they are entertaining discussions, but they're not committing, except for the deals that they have already made 3 weeks ago and just now finalizing, signing, or even announcing because they were already signed and they just needed to be, closed. in the last weeks. So this is what we are seeing now. There's a massive contraction on the number of new deals being finalized. We see the deals that were done in the past that are finalized now, and we see a lot of discussions that drag on rather than going into actual investment move.
And what I see is counterintuitively that the first initiative of crowd investing that appeared in Romania, Seedblink, is continuing to list, and all the listings are oversubscribed in a much shorter period of time than estimated. So the last one was yesterday. So it's not like people thought the crisis is not here. The crisis is very, very well established, and still people with sums, if I'm not mistaken, around 2,500 euros are putting their money into companies. Everto is one of Andreas's investments, and I'm also first round investor in Evertoys, and they assembled it as a company in MSM because there was a graduating project. It was fun. They got to be funded by Seedblink, but that was a bit before the crisis. It continues. Yeah, but yesterday the Seedblink announced another, I think, 2 or 3 companies listing, and one of them, one of the others, was already oversubscribed. I was wondering this is about investing, but I was wondering for a company, Alex was mentioning, that is not very hit by this crisis, and the productivity goes even higher, but you still need to finance your operations. What are the options, or how do you see the options in a few months from now? So I'm not talking about equity necessarily, any kind of financing.
Well, I mean, basically, Zitec, it's a consulting company and a software developer company. So the question here is, will we be able to source enough deals to have our beloved KPI, which we call the facturability one? Is it going to be up or not? Are we going to be making money or burning money? I think it's difficult to say. I think that we are looking basically at opportunities and seeing which domains are looking for IT right now. And some of the industries are looking for more IT talent right now. You guys mentioned before telemedicine, and for instance, we have a couple of leads in our pipeline coming from that industry. Not necessarily telemedicine, some others just in modeling, but again, connected with the health, imagistic and putting that online, or including applications that will enable us in Romania to have a better connection with the institutions, for instance. So there are opportunities in software development. And what the game here is, if we are able to move fast enough to have a solid pipeline in a couple of months. And this is basically what we're trying. In terms of the startups that we are in connection with, some of them were lucky enough not to raise, because their business model made sense before the crisis. But right now, when everything has changed, and the question is, when will things go back to normal? Okay, so make a startup that was around events. What do you do now with a startup around events? It made a great, the business plan was great. And now, when will you have events? Microsoft has canceled all their events up until next year. I think it's going to be all online. So when you see a behemoth like Microsoft saying, yeah, we're going to be staying offline, we're going to do events online for 1 more year, you kind of wonder, should I pivot? Probably yes. It's also very difficult to do anything connected to growth hacking. How can you run an experiment of 2 weeks or 3 weeks and see if the KPIs have improved when the behavior of your public is completely affected by this social change? So I think it's really difficult, even for the ones that got the money before, if they were still, finding their way in the business. And I think it's better for the ones that actually didn't get the money before, and now they say, whew, now I'm going to think of something else. I'm not going to do the event stuff anymore. I'm not going to be doing, you know, it's difficult. And everybody's moving in some areas, like online training. As you know, everybody wants to do that. So you get bombarded by invitations to events and blah, blah. So it's very difficult to see relevant events where you see tens of people or hundreds of people gathered. That's going to also be a challenge for a lot of people that were, you know, doing trainings and consulting and others. So I wouldn't worry about the fact that money are not that available and investors are looking for better opportunities. I think it's you can see from the other part of the mirror.
But there's other kinds of money. There's bonds, like Monica was saying. There's credit, and I believe the credit market will shift somehow, being that, like Andrea said, there's a lot of cash in the banks. Sergio or Alex or Monica or Andreas, the other kinds of financing. Yes, Monica.
Oh yeah, we are basically a retail company. So in the same shareholding structure as we were founded eight years ago, and not let's say with big pockets behind us. So we are using bank financing for already, I think, 5 years for working capital. Of course, this comes with a bit of headache. Now we are working with the largest bank in Romania, which is a Romanian bank, and we like it very much, Banca Transilvania. And I think it's a good idea for any company like to have the discipline to interact with the bank and to think and to at least understand how they see things, because okay, maybe sometimes they don't understand what you're doing, that you're building a product and all that, but you can even learn just, you know, the fact that you think they are wrong and they may be wrong still doesn't change that they are thinking like that and taking decisions like that, maybe with your competitors. So I think it's not a bad learning experience to work with a bank. Also, we work and we use a lot supplier credit, and we work with rating agencies. We keep in contact with them because some of our partners are using factoring and all this stuff. So I think that's again a lot of learning to see how they look at you and what they consider it's a good sign and what is a bad sign. And also lately, like for the last almost 1 year, we are in close contact with a financial institution, EBRD, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. They have also, they usually work on big projects with infrastructure and with the banks and with the state, but they also have something for innovative companies, like a VC arm and some consultancy. And they have also money available for their customers that they can give for loans, and sometimes they want to get in the shareholding of a company. So anyway, I mentioned bonds. I think it's very tempting, you know, to read about the big raise that somebody did and took money from the funds. But I think a real entrepreneur at different stages of the company has the obligation to take a look at different options. And of course, it's not everybody's kind of favorite game to speak with financial people. You can have a CFO on board, or you can have one of the co-founders with more kind of appetite for this. But my philosophy in getting money into the company is kind of lift every stone, because sometimes you might not know what has changed with some industries or with some partners. So in general, I encourage everybody to do it kind of not to lose time, but to keep in contact, because many things have changed and surely will change.
Thank you. I see Sergiu nodding. I think Sergiu wants to add something to it, or perhaps I think you're on mute.
I can add a couple of ideas.
Yes, please, Alex.
Besides my main company where I spend most of my time, ZTech, I'm also an investor in a factoring company called instantfactoring.com, and I can tell you that things are not looking that bad from that perspective. Of course, it's a small player yet; you cannot compare it with the big banks and everything. but that's more of a reason to you know, pay attention at what you're doing. And things are looking good. People are paying their invoices. There are just a couple of requests for, you know, a couple of extensions. It's not that bad. But of course, as a strategy, you will look at industries that are not affected. That the tendency is maybe to raise your prices a bit because the risk is higher. But for that, you also need statistical relevance, right? If you just raise with 1%, but 5% of your portfolio goes bust, then it's not good. So I obviously it's more cautious. Obviously, maybe the bets are smaller. So, and I think on the other hand, I think that entrepreneurs will, as Monica said before, will analyze options that they dismissed before. Like, I'm not going to work with banks. You know, they are bad. I was raised like that. Like, don't borrow money from the banks; they will kill you. So now that some people will have to do that, will have to learn what factoring is, and that also may be something good in long term.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm coming back to what Monica said before. Don't leave any stone unturned, because when time of uncertainty comes, it's not necessarily about, you know, stopping and keeping on grabbing all the cash and hanging on to it, but making sure that you understand what is available for you and what can you use. And sometimes you have to be fair towards your partners and your suppliers and your clients and your people at the end of the day. But that fairness has to have the survival in mind. So you have to survive in these tough times, and you have to make sure that you can continue your business. But that is for the case where you can continue your business, because there are, as we discussed, businesses that cannot continue, and for them the freezing and unfreezing is a matter of, you know, how much can I still preserve, and what would I have lost when the unfreezing takes place, considering that there will be different times of unfreezing for different kind of things. We will probably be able to go to restaurants earlier than going to large conferences, and that would be earlier than going and traveling to vacations worldwide and so on. So this may be a sequence of events that, you know, unlike the locking, will not be separated by days and weeks, but will be separated by months of living in intermediate times. And I think there will be Thanks for being so optimistic, Andreas. Yes, thank you. You know, years. That's very good. You know. Okay, good.
Monica?
No, you finish.
I wanted to finish my idea, which included the fact that we will see restructuring funds. We will see restructuring companies taking place. We will see insolvencies. We will see all that starting to play a role as soon as the unfreezing starts playing, because many companies will have difficulties. And it is time, I think, to evaluate your exit options in a way where you can still salvage something if you initiate it early enough and not wait for your creditors to do it. This is important. The second, so learn a little bit about how this game is done. Get yourself talking to some consultants. If your business is severely affected, okay, look a little bit also at what is happening in terms of restructuring. Typically, you have multiple assets. Even in the same company, you have multiple assets. Some of the assets you can hold to, some of the assets you may have to separate, some of the assets you may have to conserve, some you may have to sell at this stage. Think very well. What are the things that are valuable for you, things that are valuable for others, and how you manage that portfolio. Because in times like this, it's, you know, survival and growth may actually come in very different shapes and have very different dynamics for different companies.
Monica.
I want to pick up on that. Actually, what I wanted to say before, but then I will connect to what he said. I hear this kind of thing. Oh, my company is dying. I have to pay the salaries. My clients are not paying. Somehow I might seem a bit too full of myself, but this is what entrepreneurs do. And the risk of of failing with a business, of actually going bankrupt, of not being paid by your big customers. It's always there. Of course, now it's a bit more, it's intensified. And now I want to link with what somehow Sergiu said. Everybody's talking about freezing. I think this what we're talking about, it's not about freezing. Actually, the speed is much faster. Yeah, maybe some businesses were dying or some risks were there, and now what is happening is not the word has changed, but actually the speed increased, and somehow, you know, I wouldn't encourage people to stay home and wait for something. Yeah, they should stay inside or work from home. Of course, this is the regulation and all, but the speed surely intensified in many industries, and I think some things that will be happening after the lockdown is over were just trends that were always there, but they're just more kind of, you know, they're intensified. And now the reason I was kind of smiling earlier, the English say smile and dial. It's good to call your customers, to call or to talk, you know, to bankers, to people. Of course, maybe sometimes taking bad news or giving bad news, you know, can sound difficult to manage emotionally, but please smile and dial. Like, take the call and learn it yesterday if it's possible. Don't wait until the lockdown is over. Don't wait until something miraculously will happen.
I think I would like to chip in with two ideas here. I think it's a great time to call your customers and to be more flexible if you can afford it. Talk to them, and if they actually have a problem, extend their payment term. Maybe deliver something more if you can afford it. Maybe you have people, for instance, I have a department that's focused on digital marketing, and all the budgets went sideways in 2 days. So we lost, I think, more than 1.5 million in budgets for this year in a couple of days. So naturally, you have a couple of people that they don't have a project anymore. What do? Of course, you can assign them to do other jobs in the company. Of course, you can fire them if you don't want to, you know, build the company anymore. But I think you can provide free services to your customers when they need it and they cannot afford to pay it. I think these small gestures, I'm not talking about a lot of money. I'm not talking about big efforts. I'm talking just about something little that you can put on the table for them. And I think this is a great time to look at your partners and your customers and see who you want in your life, who's worth it. And you can support some, and you should appreciate the ones that are supporting you, because some of them have a let's say non very friendly approach. This is my first idea. And the second, I think it's very good for entrepreneurs to have let's say trust circles somehow. Like a lot of clubs exist already in Romania, and a lot of small groups can form like that. I think entrepreneurs, especially the ones under big distress, they need a safe place where they can talk to their peers. It's going to be difficult, but I think it's going to be easier there not to feel judged, not to feel like I'm failing and therefore I'm not the good person. And I think they need that because they need to recharge their batteries and get back to the fighting field and win it at the end. And I think everybody under stress should not be ashamed to do that, because that can give you the energy to you know, go through this crisis and maybe emerge better.
Thank you. I'm Andreas, go ahead. I was going to ask you a question, but go ahead.
Just to add a couple of things on that. We're talking about early stage ventures generally. They are the ones who are very early stage. I mean, they're just starting some revenues. They don't have any profits. They don't have any retained earnings. And, you know, some of them may be facing sudden death. So it's an issue what's going on with the revenues. There are others which are a little bit more advanced. They have steady customers, and you say, you know, you can talk to your customers, you can be nice to them. If you're very early stage, you really need to focus very hard on every single penny that you can get on your top line. If you're a little bit later stage, then you can focus on everything that you can get on your top line, but you have to revisit every single item on your cost line and understand, do I really need this spending and sometimes even harsher decisions. Yes, I need this spending, but I'll not need it for 9 months. And you may need to make some hard decisions on that. But generally, you need to look at every single penny on your top line, whatever you can defend. And at the same time, you need to look at opportunities that are coming from the transformative economy right now. In every single sector, you can look at something that you can grab from another business, which is less agile, it's more offline, or you can do something better from that. So you need to look at every opportunity on the top line, and you have to be, and that sometimes can be hard, very, very harsh on your cost lines. And you have to do that.
I would like to build on what Monica and Alex were saying and ask you, in this context, are entrepreneurial companies at an advantage because they have a faster decision-making process. They can pivot without asking many people. And if so, what would be an advice for an entrepreneur? How to grasp this advantage? Yeah, Monica or Andrea? So Monica was disciplined. Okay, I saw the fingers. Go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, I actually think that this is the perfect times for entrepreneurs, at least for entrepreneurs courageous and mad like me. And I kind of say this to myself and to the others. I'm telling my colleagues, because we are digitally native and all, we were born for this. Like this situation, in a way, it's like, you know, we couldn't even hope for something like this. Yes, so like we're kind of the only girl in town, yeah, the only car or one of the few cars out there on the streets. So of course, this is because we are not locked down and not touched by the situation. But I think in general, again, this is what entrepreneurs do. Yeah, so entrepreneurs look for opportunities. In fact, one of the definition I like best about entrepreneurship is pursuing a purpose no matter the existing resources. I am sure that the entrepreneurs will still pursue their dreams, their visions with the new resources. So the crisis itself might shake a bit the room, but this is exactly when you have a room shaken, when the little David can win against the Goliath, when flexibility, you only have flexibility if you use it. If you're an entrepreneur that, you know, kind of, okay, it's affected, but cries about my business is dying and my people are lost and all my 5 years of investment and work are gone, then you're not actually more flexible. Like when we're talking about flexibility, we're talking not about emotions. We're talking about real flexibility, because some companies that may be invested, I don't know, in real estate, or have thousands of people, or have invested in factories, you know, that are seriously disrupted. It's not about the emotions, that if they are sad or not, they are actually stuck with something. I think this is one of the challenges, not to make the mistake between flexibility as an emotional and, you know, kind of managing your own thing, and actually economical flexibility. So this is what I would like to kind of look at kind of clearing up what is emotions and how you feel, and fear in general, and what are actually the options. As Sergiu was saying, you know, look at call the consultants, call the friend, ask what this means. Just act. This is what entrepreneur, or those kind of entrepreneurs that act, will be the ones who will win.
I would also add like a very hands-on advice in all decision-making meetings throughout this crisis. It's good that you specifically put a section for at least, I don't know, 20 minutes to look specifically at the opportunities, because you might be hijacked by the don't lose approach to, you know, cut costs and safeguard what you have, or look defensively at stuff. And if you don't allocate an intent and some time for everybody around the table to look at possible gains or possible opportunities, they might be grabbed by somebody else. So set a time.
Last week we had a more philosophical discussion, a more philosophical panel around the same broad theme of leadership in times of crisis. And the discussion being more philosophical, it ended up with hints to the way our brains work. And the way our brains work is in times of crisis, we are getting back to the very, very basic freeze, fight, or flight kind of response. And you have you can have anxiety, and that leads to freezing, and you can have fear that leads to fight and flight. And the funny thing is that what we are seeing here with that an analogy is that entrepreneurs are typically, for them, freezing has never been an option. Entrepreneurship is about being active, being, if you want, overactive, being more inclined towards action than anything else, which means that automatically you get into fighting mode. So you start moving, and that is the key. And that is the key not only for the entrepreneurs, but I think that is the key for everyone, because the worst approach to the crisis as such is freeze. Any other alternative of action, of analysis, of running scenarios, of building strategies, of following trends as they are being built day by day or week by week is an opportunity. And history has shown that in times of crisis, funny enough, entrepreneurial companies are more resilient. And this is not necessarily because they have more resources, they typically have less resources, but they're far more adaptive and they move much faster in response to changing environment. So we're gonna have a pretty new Darwinian kind of experiment ahead of us with the economy, and my bet is on the entrepreneurs.
I want to put just an idea. Sorry, guys, I promise I will be very, very quiet after. We are so scared about this crisis because we say, oh, it's the next crisis and we never had this bad crisis, and okay, it was 10 years ago. I actually think it's wrong to define only the financial crisis or economical crisis as crisis. There's many kind of crises, and they are part of the human history. For example, we were visiting with the family in New Zealand, and there were some very bad earthquakes there that destroyed the infrastructure. Those were brutal for the cities, for everything. Those were really crises, and I mean much worse than this, because the infrastructure was gone. Again, the medical system was kind of really overheated with so many people dead, and the panic was there. We as humankind have a lot of experience with crisis, and I think we should look at this and just accept it somehow and say, okay, bad things have happened. What is next? Now, what do we do?
Can I jump in? Okay, sorry, because I may have come kind of negative in the past, but I need to emphasize again, if a few negative stuff is that valuations are frozen, investments will not happen for a little while. There's going to be a lot of human tragedy unfolding, and there's going to be very big pain on the economy. Having said that, and I'm not going to try to window dress the situation, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be bad. Nevertheless, as we discuss in class very often, that's the best time for entrepreneurship, because all the winners are made or they're started in a period of crisis. It's a transformative economy, and a lot of things are going to change dramatically. So if you have an existing business, as I was saying earlier, you need to look at the top line, you need to look at every penny, at every cost, and you may need to pivot. If you're thinking of starting a business, then that's a very bloody good time. So it's, this is going to change really substantially. So if you catch the trend, the timing is great. It's just that it's a little bit risky understanding in the market, or that you want to disrupt, or you want to jump in when the spending will start picking up again, either consumer or business. And if you are riding the wave of the transformative part of that market, other than that, it's a great time. Nobody should stay home and just watch Netflix, or you should be programming right now. You know, also, you must have your friends programming your ideas if you want to be, you know, in good partnership. You should not, as I say, the Brits are very right. Never, you know, never let you know, a good crisis go to waste. I mean, there are going to be opportunities that are going to be made, and you can already see a few of them and a few trends that are happening. So it's one thing if you already have a business and you need to see how you're going to pivot or save it. It's another thing you're thinking about what you're going to start, and it's a great time to start.
I'd like to thank, so I forgot to say, me and Sergiu were about to mention that questions are welcome, and there's a button here at the bottom called Q&A, and please post your questions over there. I would like to have, well, of course we can start talking about these questions, but I would like to save some dedicated time towards the end to do a very, very quick one question, one quick answer from one of the panelists, so every question gets some attention. So until then, please, attendees, post your questions in the Q&A special space. You have a button below. There are some questions also in the chat. We'll address those. I'm just launching my last you know, open question to everybody, inspired by Alex, who said that productivity is high, people really appreciate the transparency, things are doing nicely. If well, clients will exist, then perhaps this crisis is not bad for that business. Could there be some entrepreneurs or even some employees that will kind of like it like this? So not only getting used to it, but you know, hey, that's really working for me. You know, should I preserve some of the things, the things I do now, some of the ways we conduct business, some of the ways we conduct decision making, or I don't know, online boards into the post crisis. So
well, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I'm so glad that, look, we started using, for instance, electronic signing for documents a long time ago, and we didn't do that in Romania because usually there was like, yes, but do you have a stamp to go with that?
Yeah.
We don't.
The electronic stamp is the problem.
Right. So now everybody's okay with using DocuSign or Adobe Sign or whatever. And if you are the lucky owner of a qualified signature stick, then oh my God, it's you can sign PDFs like on the spot. So I hope part of that will stick around. I think it's such a waste that people are so stuck to the paper-based contracts. So I hope that will stay. I think also that managers that are very, very micromanagers and they want to be like behind your back to make sure that you are working, I think they're going to have a hard time telling people they cannot work from home once this lockdown is over. And so therefore, I think that, I hope that more companies will be more open and more ready to support work from home. Now they didn't have a choice, and I think that's a good thing. We will get some good things out of that. So some of the behaviors like that, I think they are better. I mean, on the other hand, you know, spending time with kids is very fun. It's very fun, depending on age. But then sometimes it's difficult, and you could say like, yeah, but you know, the first in the office is going to be like a holiday, you know. I kind of think it's going to be like that.
For many of us, the privacy of your home is anything but privacy.
Yeah, people dream of the office. If you said about micromanagement, I was reading a blog, Corporate Rebels, this morning, and they were giving examples of do's and don'ts, or shoulds and shouldn'ts for micromanagement in work from home. So apparently there are platforms that micromanagers can use in order to see how when do you check in, when do you check out. There are alarms. What are you type? If you type job search, for instance, they get notified. Or what applications do you access? So how should not a good entrepreneur because I'm
that's not a micromanager, man. So, if the guy is watching what they're doing, that's not a micromanager.
That's kinky. No, but how should an enlightened manager, but I shouldn't say enlightened because that qualifies it a bit. How should a good manager that's looking at good outcomes treat their employees in this forced work, everybody works from home situation?
I think it's the same. Everybody's talking about empowering your team and trusting them, and setting them free on their objective, and then not prying every 5 minutes. So everybody was talking about that. Now you get to do that because it's so difficult to be a micromanager remotely. I think again that's going to create a very positive impact on micromanagers. They will see that you can actually do something without poking people every 5 minutes.
Do you have any specific thing that you do when in your coordinating your people?
I haven't changed anything.
All right.
After that.
Any secrets? Anybody has any insights on how to lead people from a distance?
Something that people don't understand: when people work from home, they very often work a lot more. Because you have, there's no blurry line between office or not office. I remember that from 1998, the first time I got home office for some managers. What do you mean you didn't read your email because it was Saturday? It's on your phone. It's just arriving. It was already there with you. So if you, especially if you pay for their internet at home, it's like you can even extend, there's no borderline. So at some point they will start begging you to come back to work. So we have people now, the university, half of them, they're begging us when we're going to open the building because they cannot stay home with their kids, as Sergiu implied earlier. But there is a lot more efficiency that you can get. I mean, they have them on their mobile, they answer on Sunday evening, and it's addictive to some degree. You can even exploit a little bit as an employer. But,
yeah, I think on short term, I think that might work, but I wouldn't bet on that for more than 3-4 weeks, because I think people will get overburned working at home much faster than working from the office.
They're going to be coming back to the office anywhere, half of them.
Monica?
Now, Sergiu first. Sergiu.
No, I want just the flip side of what Alex was saying is what a manager of mine has said. I guess also not many of the employees will look at work from home as a benefit anymore.
Yeah, actually, I want to pick up there also. Yesterday, I had also a call with 150 people from, so half of our workforce, because the other half is kind of in the warehouse. And one of the anonymous questions that I was asked is, working from home kind of puts more costs on us. Can you give us more money or something like this? So yeah, some people see it as a burden, but this is not a joke. This is, I think, funny. What I wanted to say is that, and I want to kind of provoke my co-panelists, what do you think it's, because I've done this in the morning in another conversation, what do you think it's a healthy percentage of kind of virtual or remote and live work? My percentage is kind of 40%. So I would like 40% of my meetings, work things to be like this, from not necessarily from home, but from somewhere else than office. So kind of, I think 2 days, if you're not going from office, and somehow on average 3 days you're meeting with your people, it's a very healthy balance. I'm very curious to see to hear the others what they think about what would be a right balance, if they're more aggressive or less aggressive on the long run, not today.
Yeah, Monica, I think it depends a lot on the role that you have in the organization. So as a manager,
what works for you, Alex?
For us. So for us, I think eventually people, that's my bet. I think people will kind of try to see the benefits of working from home from a cost saving perspective. You don't need such a large office if 60% of your workforce at the given time it's working from home. So therefore you may organize the meetings like, okay, you go back, you go home, you do your project, and we have some team meetings. But as a manager, you will tend to stay always in the office because you need to talk to that team, that team, that team. And as much as possible, personal contact anyway. So it depends pretty much on the position. If you are the general manager of the company, or if you are working with a lot of people. If you are a developer, for instance, probably you can spend 80% of the time at home easily, and maybe you can even avoid the rest of the meetings and stay home. So I think it's going to be a bit more for managers. I think you're going to be in a very good position if you can achieve that percentage that you mentioned.
So how much is for you?
Very quickly, for senior management, I would give it a much higher percentage, 52. My key people, it works a lot better if I see them face to face. Where it helps a lot, and you realize without crisis that you can cut down on traveling. Those has substantial marginal cost in terms of time and cost, but primarily time. So if you want to fly for a day to Warsaw, you really need to think twice, is it worth it, or can you do it over a good Zoom call? So depends on the nature, or the type of people you work with, and if you're comparing people you would normally meet at the office on a daily basis, or people you need to travel to have a meeting with.
I think in my case, if I can take that, I have no clue, and I have no clue because it's definitely less than what it used to be, and it's definitely more than what it is now. And what that real balance will be, it's still to be figured. There are some damages in our business and social way of doing things that we encounter now. And this is, for instance, you don't randomly see people. Randomly seeing people that you were not supposed to see, whether that is happening on the corridor, at the cafeteria, in front of it, because you attend a certain conference and you shake hands. By the way, what's going to happen with the shaking hands? Shake hands with someone at the conference. These kind of things where actually you explore the exploring part of what you are doing in terms of social network, in terms of meeting people. And this has an impact on sales, by the way. All that part is kind of dead right now. And this is something that, in a healthy business, you need to have, and you need to continue to explore. So this is, for instance, a part that I'm missing. The social interaction that is not the mandatory, driven by the job to be done. The one that is random and comes up with random chances of ending up with something. And it has two layers. One is a functional layer, the one where a random event leads to like a conference. A random event leads to a relationship and to a business, but it has a subtle thing of having the social network being there in the organization. I realized we have hired some people in the last weeks, and these guys are suddenly in an environment where they have never seen anyone but the team that they are working with, and then you end up, of course, in a Zoom event or in a Hangout event of 150 people, and you eventually see the bosses, but you don't, get there to kind of have a chat on a normal human level with them. And this is a big loss because these guys, I keep thinking, they are still, in terms of social network, they're still part of their previous jobs, not the current jobs, because they have not been able to build that. So how do you manage, and this is I think for you as managers and for every manager today, how do you manage this kind of absence of a social layer of random events that builds cohesion in the team? How do you manage to build something instead of that?
You put something there. You do this kind of, like, I'm so in love with this idea of actually having a mixture between life and we're live on Facebook, but we're also remote. So I think, and I want to keep this in the future. I really think that people shouldn't miss things that they want to be into unless they are really dead or on a flight, and even on a flight you can get internet. So I think we should, and we will have this option to be in the meeting that you want to be. Like, I don't know, my daughter had a appendicitis operation, and she had to stay home for 2 weeks, so she missed school. I think that was wrong. She should have been able to see the live streaming of the class. Kind of missing the human interaction, but still hopping along. So I think now we have to put something else there. Okay, we lost the cafeteria or the meeting on the kind of, the cigar on the terrace kind of thing, but we put other things in there.
Yeah, Alexandru's, sorry, go ahead, Alexandru.
This is the perfect product placement time for me. Basically, what we have put, it's our product. For instance, we have a product where people talk to each other, provide the recognition, kudos, and others. And so if you're new in the company, and we have a couple of new colleagues, for instance, that never been to the actual office, they were hired in the crisis, right? They have access to a wall where they can see Ionuț saying thank you to Marius for a specific task in a specific project. So they still get to a little bit of interaction outside their specific task. So as Monica said, I think we need some remote tools, because if we spend more time apart, we will need some other approaches, some other tools. Some of them are already there, but they're not very popular, but some will be invented so that, and they are going to be more popular. For instance, I'm seeing a lot of demand for this product that we have built from Romania, from people that say, okay, I need this for my team, because otherwise we feel like we're drifting apart.
And can you please say the name of the product?
I'll put it in the chat. It's Miro.io.
Okay.
And I also want to hop a little. It happened to us, to Vivre, that we had some people, like 30 people, mainly translators for exotic languages, I call them, languages from the region, that were working remote for years with us. And one of the interesting things that I saw, because they were like living in Slovakia or in Oradea or stuff like that, and we had to take them because we didn't find the local native speakers of Slovenian or Croatian and stuff like that. And one of the interesting things, so this is way before, yeah, so it's not from today, from the pandemic. One of the very interesting things that I saw in interacting with them, because they were coming from time to time to office for meetings and to team buildings, they were very happy and very engaged with the company. So somehow we also are quite digitalized. We use Basecamp, not Slack. We use a lot of email, the intranet. Oh, good for you. What's in there? A good one, yeah? What?
Primitivo.
Good for you. But somehow it works. So somehow it can work. I don't think it's such a big drama. We lost the cafeteria. It was nice, and sometimes it will come back for that's why I put a percentage. So I don't say, okay, human interaction is over, we all work from home. But that's why I was insisting so much on a balance.
Can I frame it a bit differently? So you were implying that there are two kinds of work. So one is work from home and one is work at the office. But Sergiu was asking for like a third thing, the socialization. Either it is of the CEO of the entrepreneur who wants to get out and find capture opportunities because they're not in the office, or the cafeteria or the socialization inside the company. So could I propose a framework with 3 layers, not work from home or work at the office, but 3? One is work from home, one is work from the office, and the third one is play. And I think this should work for play in a serious sense, in a capturing opportunities or doing the good socialization way. And could this work for I don't know, 33 way for a manager, but how would you implement it for your employees, because they need some playtime? I think Google is famous for allowing their employees to I don't know, play, and that came very, very well.
For instance, Radu, we are organizing a Counter-Strike tournament, for instance.
They actually play.
They actually play.
I think that's the 4th thing. That's the let's have fun together. But I was talking about play in a serious way. Playing with ideas, playing with meeting new people, going to conferences, or exploring opportunities.
We are doing this here, aren't we? We play. We
Exactly.
we do things that I've never met Andreas. I think not yourself, Radu, or maybe we just said hello. So,
Monica meet Andreas, Andreas meet Monica.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
The rest of the 69 people in watching us.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, but you know, okay, they are chatting, and again, as Alex said, the tools are not perfect, and we are not there yet. But surely they will come very fast, because now there is a market for it. Now there is interest for it. Now people actually will say, okay, I'm gonna pay 50 euro for this app or for whatever to buy, I don't know, a camera or a device. Because it's just 50 euro and it's saving me 5,000 euro of flights going to meet people for just 2 hours of kind of a negotiation. And then, you know, that's why I'm saving 2 days of my life plus the cost, you know? So I think you can put the play and the social layer easily back. So I was mentioning at the beginning, I'm hopping into so many things, like even this event, and I don't know, different things that I wasn't doing before. And there I meet people and I talk to people and I can chat to them and they can pick up on me after that. So I don't think this kind of out of nowhere interactions disappeared in this environment.
Okay. Andreas and Sergio, I know both of you are active on many boards. I would like to change the discussion completely now. How should an entrepreneur make very good use of her or his board now? So there's boards of, you know, the boards. How should you make the most of that? How should you exploit your board?
I can start with the boards that I'm a part of, and what I see happening is we see accelerated times. You know, you're supposed to, the board is there for the sheer function of strategy and to manage risk. And guess what? We are in a situation where you have a major shift in paradigm, and this is both creating risk and redefining strategy. So I see pretty much everywhere a need for much rather than meeting at every 2 months, we kind of meet at 2 weeks, sometimes even on a weekly basis. Sometimes shorter meetings, of course, not the 3 hours, you know, the documents to read and documents to sign, but more, you know, to respond to the current challenges. And as the challenges unfold and the opportunities unfold one by one, there is more need to have them, you know, discussed and agree upon. And I think this is actually very healthy and very useful. I think Andreas was saying earlier that it's an extremely important time for you to get to hear to talk to your or Alex was saying to your people, part of your consulting tribe. You know, have a board of people, even if it's not a formal board for your company, but get into a mastermind circle, get into a small club where you would speak to the 5 guys that you think are important for you and get their opinion, because you are stuck in a position where everything is around you. You need an outside view, and you need an educated outside view on your business. And this is something that is not something that you always have access to. That's my
adding to what Sergio said. First of all, your board is very important, especially in times of that, because of experience and because of resources that can draw in to help on a consulting basis, but also on a more practical basis. The board at this time, and especially this time, first thing that they need to make sure is business continuity. And when you're looking at business continuity, they can bring a much more pragmatic or sometimes abrupt approach in reading your P&L and looking at your P&L from a midterm point of view. That's one thing. And on the other thing, talking about pivots or opportunities, sometimes they can think out of the box on what other revenues could you attack in such a changing environment. Of course, you know your business on a day-to-day basis better than anyone else, but sometimes it doesn't help you thinking out of the box. Just recently, last Monday, we had a board meeting on a company that challenged revenues, challenged regulatory environment, but at the same time, we identified a great opportunity where a larger competitor was much more impeded in terms of doing business. So we could, go after a very good part of their customers. That, that's a great opportunity right there and now. We have results in 3 days. So first and foremost, it's business continuity. There's a lot of experience you can draw upon, a harsh look on your P&L, and at the same time, opportunities to pivot or grab revenues. And revenue and cash flow is going to be very important in the coming months. And of course, the frequency that Sergiu said, it's not going to be once a quarter. You're going to compress it to once every 2 weeks or once a month for now.
Do you have boards, Monica, Alex? How do you work with them?
Monica has.
Yeah, so we have a board, but it's basically the shareholders, so it's not external. And I am part of the board in Purcar, and also actually I've been on other boards for the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Bulgarian, Romanian one for I don't know how many years, and also in another NGO with autism. So I know these mechanisms. Indeed, now, for example, for Vivre, we do weekly updates on boards, and with Purcar, it surely has been the most intense month since we started. I think we had, we had call on, I think even 2 or 3 calls a week, yeah, and with scenarios and with many people. So there's a lot of work for a board, and that's normal, yeah. Because there's a lot of risk in the market, and for companies that have also external kind of non-executive independent members, like I am with Purcar, it's very good to have people from outside the box kind of talking, because they are not stuck with something. They are not tied up with the success. They are not validated by that success, so they can shake the room before the tsunami does. So there's a lot of work there. It's actually overwhelming how many hours we pour into that strategic thing. But I think it's good. I mean, I don't see any even those informal boards. They should be there, and I think most of the entrepreneurs or CEOs even should be part of boards in other companies, and most of the companies should take people like totally independent out of the blue and bring them along, because the value on both sides, the learning and the new point of views are huge.
But what about, let's say we have among our attendees some smaller entrepreneurs, or even people who are freelancers, and they don't have a formal board, but they would really benefit from wise third-party experience or perspectives right now. What should they do in a situation like this? Assemble fast a board?
I want to expand a bit, because maybe I didn't say it, and maybe this board is a big name and a big concept. So, for example, I am one of the very, very attached as to entrepreneurship, to the concept of mentorship, and for I don't know how many years, at least 12 now, maybe more, I have been in different mentor and mentee position. For the last 8 years, I have Marius Ștefan, for example, as a mentor. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I have been a mentor for 3 entrepreneurs. So they are not exactly like my board, but with the mentor or the mentee, we have kind of monthly sessions for many years. So it's a huge commitment of time and kind of resources, but they are like a board, yeah. Sometimes, and they are not my friends, they are not relatives, they are not big customers. So they are people somehow out of the blue that we work as mentor and mentee, and we commit This brings a lot of value. On top of that, I want to mention two things that I am part of for many years already and are very good for me, although they are not board structure. So for example, I am part of a mastermind group where there's other, this is how I actually met Sergiu in person. He's not very, he's involved in many things, and he's not lately very active there, but it's a great thing. And again, it's volunteer, it's free basically because nobody's paying anybody, yeah, but it's bringing a lot of value. It's with other entrepreneurs, and the format varies, but it's again like a once a month session. Lately we've had kind of once in 2 weeks because there's so many things to talk about. I am in a forum in YPO, but again there's a group of eight people talking about things, again a monthly thing. So there's many frameworks that are actually like your board. Yeah, it shouldn't be called a board, and sometimes it can be like a mentor, like somebody, a wise person that you look upon. It can be an uncle or your former boss. Just reach out to somebody, yes, and talk about your problem, somebody you respect, and importantly, somebody independent that doesn't have a stake in your problem, that is not affected, so they can be somehow to have the authority to give you, you know, like for you to trust their opinion, but not to have a stake in the problem. Again, smile and die. Ask for opinions. I do that a lot, and it helps me.
I would like to add here the experience I got in one of the clubs I'm a member of. I'm talking about CEO's Club. I tend to stay away from the conferences. I'm not a big fan of conferences. But in CEO's Club, they organized the advisory boards. And I was very lucky to be part of probably the best one. Actually, well, it's for sure, it's the best one. And that was for me game-changing, just to be every 2 weeks, every month part of very relevant and applied discussions in a group of people where you can, you know, let your shield down. It helped me a lot, and also I learned a lot about other businesses that, you know, before I didn't know a lot.
Thank you very much. We are 1 hour into the show. It's a show. Is that true? Is it a show? Yeah, you're on mute, but
we are actually 1 hour 30, and we're about to close. So we're
on 1 hour 30. Oh my God!
We should already kind of wrap it up and get
so
the final.
Can we take I don't know, just 2 1-minute questions? One of them is if we were about to launch now, should we launch or delay?
You're talking a business that has not been created. You're talking about a brand.
Yeah.
It depends. If you feel that you get
no,
the drift,
it's a new product launch. Sorry, it's a new product launch.
A new product launch of an existing company.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it depends how relevant it is to if it's not relevant to what's going on right now, if it's not part of the very intense growth markets that are happening out of need, out of this lockdown that most of the world is experiencing, then even if it's costly, you should avoid launching, because you're going to be, nobody's going to pay attention. Human psychology is, I don't know if it's B2C or B2B, by the way, but even if it doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C, you're not going to get much attention unless it's relevant to the urgent needs. You know, if you are not addressing urgent needs that are happening now, and everything, you know, both business and individuals have been hijacked by what has been happening. So unless you're addressing what's really be happening now, you shouldn't be marketing. You should be postponing it.
Okay, thank you. 2 quick more questions.
Sorry, I want to say something.
Yeah, of course.
The last 2-3 days about new businesses that actually came from existing assets. Yeah, for example, a company that has cars and was doing airport transfers is now delivering fresh vegetables directly from the farms, and they have great success with that. And it was launched, I think, last week, with the drivers and with the cars that they had from before, and they were never thinking about delivering vegetables from farms. I mean, they were very far away from that. Then I've learned about, and I'm getting offers, companies that started producing those combinezoane. Okay, they are related with the medical situation, yeah, the fact that you have to protect yourself, but this is entrepreneurship. There's always opportunities, yeah.
Absolutely, but it has to be exactly spot on. The examples you mentioned,
exactly, and
it has to be relevant to what's going on. You're addressing needs now.
I am sure there's at least 10 businesses being launched today, and some of them on average will die in 6 years, and some of them will grow. Of course, now the lockdown makes things maybe a bit more difficult, not so visible, but surely people talk, and they have things, and they are planning on things, and maybe they will register the company after this is over, but already the business is there, it's alive.
And I would even say hundreds, not tens. It just needs to be somewhat relevant. Otherwise, you're not going to get the attention. If you start a business which is about new tourism opportunities right now, you're not going to get the attention. It might be a great opportunity, but you need to launch in November, not now. But anything that's relevant to what's going on now, the minds of business executives and consumers have been hijacked by the abrupt change of the reality. So if you're addressing a need or you're offering an opportunity, it can be an entertainment opportunity. That's fine. Online weddings, online funerals, online religious services. So long it's relevant to the needs that you need to address right now.
Yeah, and I think that they say that now it's a freeze period. Maybe we can call it, I hate this freeze idea, because it's just like you don't do anything.
Incubation.
It's like the winter, because under the snow, the little seeds are growing, and you don't see them, but there are still things and life is moving underneath the snow. I think this is what this pandemic is.
I think this also answers one of the questions that said, should you carefully look at your cost or continue to run money? And I think this is a false dilemma. You just answered, it's not either or. You should obviously look at your cost very carefully, but you should not freeze. You should continue at best to do the things that you used to do in this new let's say environment, but also look, plant the seeds that Monica was talking about, because the seeds are growing only if either they're by nature but not necessarily very productive, or if you plant them.
I've seen a lot of customers cutting their sales marketing activity to zero. I mean zero. And I think that's really, really bad. I mean, I understand that some consumer behavior has radically changed. So you would not be putting money into direct sales campaigns because nobody's buying right now. Everybody's looking somewhere else. But you need to stay in touch with your customer. You need to be top of his mind, so that whenever he will come back, he will revert, he will think of you. And I think this is more like a panic-driven response, like cut everything, cut all expenses, do nothing, just wait for the spring. Thank you, Monica, for the nice metaphor to come. But I think if you are not staying in touch with your customers with an adapted strategy connected with the current focus they have these days, I think it's a bad call.
But I would emphasize the adaptive, because the other it's not either put it to zero or leave it as it is right now. Adapt it. For instance, I wouldn't pay too much for outdoor signing right now, because there's not much traffic on the roads. For instance,
I think there is a fundamental thing here that we have to keep in mind when we, it's not about the product launch. A business is never about your products. A business is always about the consumer, the client's needs, okay, and pain points. And there is such an abundance of new pain points that are emerging now, and of pain points that are being built for the life after the lockdown that are new and have not been explored. All these are opportunities. To the extent that you're building a product, a solution, something that responds to these new pain points, because they are hurting now, they are urgent, then definitely build as fast as you can, launch whatever MVP you have, even if it's incomplete, but have it in the market, get into on the consideration list of your consumers and your customers. But if you're not there, if you're product centric, it's about you. Think very well if that has a fit.
Well, on this very constructive way, I would like to thank Sergiu that he reminded us that the time flew very, very fast. So thank you very much, Monica. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you, Andreas, very much. Thanks to all the team. Thank you, Sergiu, and thanks to all the team at MSL.
Thank you, Radu.
The wonderful people who made this possible. Thank you very much, everybody who attended, and hopefully we'll have something as it couldn't be as entertaining and as informative, but at least hopefully almost next week, in exactly 1 week. Thank you very much, and well, stay safe, stay immune, and have fun. Drink online.
Thank you for having us. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
You're around.